So for data governance risk assessment, some of the things we did was there was a scenario whereby gaps were identified by your assessors or internal and external auditors, and your role was to kind of do a data governance risk assessment. So what did you do specifically? Your actions were you highlighted number one, the risk ranking, the potential impact, the likelihood of occurrence in those issues. So first point was this is really checking oversight of the executive within the organization or the board, and what that means is that what is the reporting mechanism to the board? Because remember again, data is the new oil, right? So data is like a huge essential commodity for your business. That's what you sell, really, or that's really your business model. So it means the data must be appropriately kept. One, because of compliance issue, it can embarrass us. Secondly, it can lead to class action suit. Thirdly, damage in your reputation. The list of crazy things that can happen is endless. It's just a lot of bad things that can happen potentially. So just take note of that. The other thing was board reporting mechanism. What are the key reporting structure in general? How is reporting done in general? That's going to be another big one, How do we do reporting in general? So that is part of the specific assessment. The other thing is data integrity itself. And remember, anything data, there are a couple of things we should put in mind. Number one, data at rest. Number two, data in transit. Number three, data in use. Those are the three fundamentals in general. So data at rest means I have to think about potentially what are the key things from security point of view. Can somebody violate our environment because data is kept static at that point? So are the data encrypted? Second thing, data in transit. If you and I send an email, that is transit, right? So how do we ensure that what was sent is what was received? Was there a man in the middle attack? Is there a input/output report that says 5 files sent, 5 received to kind of reconcile the data that was sent and received, right? The other thing is that we also think about the output of the data. What exactly is coming out in terms of the data that was sent? Is it the same thing? So those are the things we are thinking of in general terms, in terms of data, right? So those are the areas I think you can generally just give them an idea of a project you did, limited to specifically risk assessment. Go back to our lab, pull that specific Excel spreadsheet that we use in the workbook. We can use it as a talking point in this case. Let me go to the next one. Let me pause. Do you have a question there?
No, thank you. You're answering it.
All right, good. So the other thing that I see here is that it says ability to pull data and translate it to other things. And they also mentioned the using of data lake, Looker, Tableau, blah, blah, blah. All of those are tools that people use to pull reports and data, right? It's like a typical database. One thing I'll tell you here is always tell them, yes, you're familiar with Tableau. That does not mean you are like a Tableau administrator, right? You're just familiar with the reporting there, how to pull report. And you can just tell them within your organization, you've built dashboard based on certain requirements already. The dashboard can be providing list of incidents that are occurring on a daily basis. Just an example. So your role is always to pull the report from Tableau. Tableau is easy to use. Now, remember, you're not telling them you're a Tableau administrator. You're not the one setting up Tableau, giving people access to Tableau. You're just an end user. So we're going to go from that angle, okay? So because it's a simple tool to use, I've used it a couple of times too. From a reporting point of view, what you're doing is that this report has been built already. You're just running queries to pull those reports out, as simple as that, okay? So that's the best angle we can use to, give ourselves some leeway there. If they ask about Tableau, we're going to own it. We are not Tableau administrators. You don't know anything about setting up Tableau, but you've used the report in Tableau. That's it. The next thing I would like you to do, not necessarily for this, but for all of us in the future, if somebody talks about queries, stuff like that, there are many courses out there for SQL. I used to teach this class some years back. It's simple. The foundation SQL is not like you're running. Let me give an example of SQL. All right. I can say, look at the query. It's really select statement. So let me give you a simple scenario of SQL. So I could say select users in Skillweed that are participating in GRC program equals to interview program also. So what it will do is that it will filter all my GRC folks, all my Skillweed community. We have a large community, streamline it to just the GRC folks, then streamline it to people that belong to the group for interview. Our community is maybe close to 3,000 people or more, right? Then it has narrowed it down to specifically to just people that are within the GRC program, then filtered it more to people that are participating in the interview. So that's all it is. It's just a select statement. Don't overthink it. It's simple. That's why I put the link here. Honestly, you can learn basic SQL. You're not learning to be a guru in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
So don't worry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I do. I understand Power BI.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. That's super awesome. That's great. All right, let's see the other one. The next thing is saying maintaining best practices regarding information security, integrity. Anytime you hear best practice, just tie it to NIST and ISO. That's why I put it here. If you notice, I put ISO here and NIST. Just say, well, you've used NIST framework and ISO to map different best practices based on the gaps, and those are the recommendation and action plan you've put together. So you can see here. That's why I said add scenario 2 and 3. I'll share this with you after the call. So 2 and 3 for sure. All right. Let's see the other one. One thing that caught my attention here, if you notice, it says ability to drive issues to closure. It's really going to be mitigation of issues, right? It means there's an issue, you have to help them to follow up on mitigation. You are not necessarily the one mitigating those issues, but your role is to make sure they fix those issues in a timely manner. And if they don't, you call it out and make it a potential risk to the business. Okay. Let's see. Okay, the other thing here, it says gather and understand functional requirement, develop complex queries, and provide reports. So what I would say here is that think about this. Anytime we talk about functional requirement, it's mostly like what a business analyst is doing, right? They're putting requirements that are needed, right? In our case, the question is, how do you get requirement? In simple terms, it's like somebody asking me, how do I get what's in your mind? It means I have to conduct a meeting, potentially workshop, walkthrough. Walkthrough is just saying, show me how you do this, and I take notes and screenshot of how you do it, right? So those are the ways I really build my requirements. In terms of documentation of those requirements, depending on your organization, we can document in Jira tool, we can use Rally, we can use old faithful Word documents or your SharePoint. Whatever your organization use, you can feel free to use it at any point in time. But that's really the foundation of what I'm saying here. The final one, day-to-day, look at what it says here. It says the person is tasked with data discovery, protection, and classification. In your mind, think about this. Discovery says, do we even know the data we have in our organization? A lot of people don't know the kind of data they have. So that's discovery. The next thing is protection. Now we know the data we have. How do we protect it? How do we do the right classification of the data? Because many people use what we call a DLP tool, data loss prevention tool. But before you set up those tools, you need to understand the classification mechanism in your business. So if I discover a policy that I want to make it in-house and I classify it confidential, if anybody sends it within the organization or outside, the DLP tool will flag it and say, hey, a confidential report is being shared, and it will flag you. That's really the way they design those tools. And there are so many of those tools out there. But at least you get the fundamental. And that's the summary. I think those are the key things you should just mentally get yourself ready for. Speak strong about those scenarios and have. All right. Any question before we jump to the next?
Thank you. You really helped me out. Thank you so much, sir.
Excellent. All right. Good luck. All right. Let's jump to the next person. All right. The next person, this is a. All right. Let me tell you this. I think this is for Mania, right? Let's see. Let's see. Can you give me thumbs up so I can unmute you, please? Or give me thumbs up, please. Are you on the call? Yes, no? Let me find you. Please give me thumbs up. Oh, look at you. I see you. All right. Okay, go ahead. Excellent. Okay. Sorry about that. All right, let's go. Okay, so let's see. Let's see. Okay, this is the role, right? So let me quickly run through this with you. My first observation is one, I like your courage. You know, I am mad at people that are confident. It's a PMO kind of role, right? Project management organization. So your role will be the only thing I see there. Well, there are some element of governance, so we can sneak in there. It doesn't matter to me, man. Anything that gets my folks' job, I'm good with it. We'll make it work. But the question is, how do we deliver, right? So let's think about this together. First one, develop and maintain relationship across various functions, PMOs, and other enterprise level governing bodies, blah, blah, blah. So most times when we, so let's say whatever role your role is, I'm not sure I got the title of the position itself. All I see is and you can tell me, help me out here, you know the exact title. But let's get to the specific, which is this, right? So I suspect you're going to work with many cross-functional teams. That simply means people in different business lines. So because your role is going to be like a PMO data governance person, it means you're going to work across multiple layers of people to pull things together, right? So you might find yourself reaching out to many project managers, depending on the area you're working on, right? Most of the time. The second piece I'm looking at here, it says communicating and executing the organizational PMO governance and oversight activities in conjunction with functional PMO, blah, blah. The governance oversight activity typically would say, number one, what is the reporting process for the organization itself? At the enterprise level, at the project level, at the program level, what is the reporting mechanism? Second thing, when there is crisis, how do we report it? Thirdly, what are the risk triggers for showing a potential crisis? For example, does it mean if a client reach out with 2 escalation or 3 escalation, we should treat that as a potential crisis? All right, you define all of those roles internally. What would trigger we calling a situation a crisis even before it becomes an actual crisis, right? So that we can manage it. So the whole idea of governance is to prevent chaos, really, at the end of the day. So there should be a solid governance model on how reporting will be done, on communication within the project, on oversight, regulation, whatever is needed. That should give us a general oversight at your level and at the PMO level also. The third one, and feel free to stop if you want to stop. The third one talks about access compliance to governance and oversight activities standard through periodic review, blah, blah. So really your role here, the third bullet point is saying there is a charter already for the project or program. There is an oversight and governance model defined already. Your role is to periodically look at those reviews also and make sure that there is appropriate compliance to it. And when there's no compliance to it, you're the one tracking violations, right? For example, you notice that escalation was not properly done, then that's going to be a compliance issue, right? You notice communication was not consistently done, because every project, the communication must be spot on, and you realize there's no weekly project update. There's no weekly leadership update. All of those are things you already have in the oversight documentation. If it's not currently done, it's your role to call it out. That's really what that job is going to be. And sometimes also, it's not even oversight on that alone. It could also be potentially you monitoring if there are violations, sometimes external. Maybe in the course of the project, somebody mistakenly sent confidential information to somebody else. That's going to be tracked. Maybe it's violating CCPA privacy law, GDPR privacy law, whatever it is, you have to document it. So technically, you're almost closely aligned to project management around data governance framework. That's really what this job is from what I'm saying. All right, let's see the next thing. Analyze scorecard, project management tools to independently assess risk and drive actions to address the root cause that led to governance. Okay, so what this is saying is that within the project, and most major projects do this, right? They would have a scorecard they use to measure different things in different projects, right? Based on that scorecard, you can take a look to see where are the potential gaps. Let me give an example. A scorecard can be consistently bad in the domain of communication. Let's say you guys decided the scorecard is 1 to 10. For a certain project, we score it 4 because there's always continuous escalation. Our goal is to get it to 8 above, right? So you can know that, hey, guys, this is an issue still. And more importantly, how do we intend to resolve the issue? All right, so that's a big one also. So it's not enough to have the issue, but more importantly, how do we resolve the issue? So I kept this here, scenario 4 and 8 and 6. Scenario 4 and 6 is a good one you can sneak in specifically for the purpose of remediation issue. That was why I kept it there. So this is more for security control gap and remediation issue. Now you might ask, how does that tie? Even though it's governance, at the end of the day, governance still wants us to resolve issues, right? So if there are gaps and issues, what is the procedure for resolving those issues? This is a good one. This is for security control. The second one, the scenario 6 is mostly for IT general controls issues, and how it was effectively communicated, the resolution of those issues. So this is a good one you can sneak in your conversation for sure. All right, let me go back. Let's see. All right, we're almost done. You can see it says address the root cause that led to the issue. So it's not just, like I mentioned, it's not just having issues identified, but also making sure there is appropriate resolution to those issues. All right, 2 more. Identify process improvement, artificial intelligence, machine learning, automation opportunities tied to new existing processes performed by the org, PMO, or functional. All right, so one thing I was thinking here, you can Google this. It's called RPA, and everybody can Google this. Robotic process automation. Robotic process, and I'll give you an example you can use, okay? So robotic process automation simply says that, and it's a popular term, we can use example of automating reports provided to leadership weekly. Let me tell you, to a central SharePoint drive. Okay, let me tell you what this is all about. So RPA is the concept out there today that allows us to automate certain processes. Let me give an example. So for example, weekly, you might say, I have to send a weekly report to my directors. Maybe it's a global company. You have 6, 7 directors you have to send certain reports to. You go to Tableau or Power BI to run those reports, right? And you now manually send it to your directors. I can use RPA. RPA is just an automation tool whereby I can record all my steps that I use to perform that task. And guess what I will do after that? I would automate my steps. I would turn myself to an artificial intelligence avatar, so to speak. And the system would now automatically perform that same task going forward. I'll set the time it should be doing it. It will just replicate what I do. That's all. Does that make sense, people? So you might hear that it's an industry thing out there for a while. So people do that now to automate processes they feel, takes a lot of their time. And honestly, it's amazing because now every Thursday, it will automatically just send report to the leadership, and 99% of the time, it's accurate. It's the same thing you and I are doing. You just automated it, and it will be doing it going forward. So that's a good one there. So if somebody asks about, you just say, well, you're part of a project to, implement RPA, robotic process automation, whereby some of the reporting mechanism we had was now automated. And you can also say, yeah, you developed the requirements, you did not build the solution. And there are people that's their job, so don't worry about that. Nobody wants you to do that specifically. So look at the task they asked. They said, identify process improvement. That was what they wanted to do. And this is the process improvement. You can say, hey, I identified that my organization was being inefficient with having to send reports multiple times in the week. Why don't we use RPA to automate it? As simple as that. Now, I'm not advocating it so crazy so that you guys will not say, are you sure we'll not be out of jobs? I get it. But it has its own benefit. It's not fully human. We still need the human intelligence and judgment for sure. But they're pretty good, I'll be honest. All right, so let's see the final one. Formally document using UML. For my folks that are part of my Agile products, you would appreciate this. UML is just Universal Markup Language, or UML. It's really those tools like Visio, Lucidchart that you can use to draw process flow, and including PowerPoint. So if you're on this call, if you've never used a UML tool, just go to Lucidchart, and they have some free version you can explore and have fun doing it. Just go to Lucidchart. It's easy to use, so I'm not gonna don't stress it too much. It's not a big deal. Just play around it. But for my product guys, anybody on this call that is doing product would probably not need any help here. But that's really it. Questions. We have 2 more minutes. Question. Let me leave it for you to. No, 2 more minutes.
I think you said everything, because I did a lot of research, and this person just reached out to me. So I didn't apply for it. They just look at my profile and reach out to me. So
excellent.
That was it. Yeah.
All right. Good luck. Go shine like a diamond. Thanks everybody for hanging out. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.